This video is brought to you by Skillshare, an online learning community with thousands of classes for creators. Explore new skills, deepen existing passions, and get lost in your own creativity. Turning my passion of Dota 2 into a job was not exactly straightforward for me. Skillshare classes can help anyone who's trying to do the same with their passion. I strongly recommend classes that help you with marketing, productivity, entrepreneurship, as well as interpersonal skills. I just got done watching a class taught by Peggy Dean called Pricing Your Work. I'm sure a lot of you out there can relate to struggles with deciding how much you are worth. How much is your time worth? How do you negotiate prices? In this course, she establishes a great balance between customer satisfaction but not underselling yourself. Make sure you check out her class and many more on Skillshare. Skillshare is curated for learning. There are no ads, and new classes are launched all the time. It is less than $10 a month for an annual subscription. Make sure to click the link below in the description to sign up. The first 1,000 of my subscribers to click the link will get a free trial premium membership. Don't miss this chance to explore your creativity.
Banana slam jam.
Hello everybody, welcome back. We got ourselves a fun little top tier list of Aghs shards for 7.29. I actually believe that they relatively made a lot of them game breaking. I think a lot of the buffs that they gave to heroes were through the Aghs shard. You know, in the past we've seen them give some pretty baller tier Aghanim scepters to certain heroes, and it really changed the way they play. And I think there's a reasonable amount of Aghs shards that honestly either change the viability of a hero or at least make them significantly stronger because they get purchased almost every single game. We have several honorable mentions for the top tier Aghs shards, and then we'll be listing off the top 10 Aghs shards. So I first want to say what my criteria for putting these on. The honorable mentions we're going to start off with. So for honorable mentions, I believe they are Aghs shards that are quite powerful, and Aghs shards that these heroes, they're not necessarily game-changing Aghs shards, but they're just really good, and the hero will buy it almost every single game. So let's go ahead and list those off, and we'll show you exactly what each one of them does, in case you guys are too lazy to read. So, the first and foremost one that I have at the bottom of the list is Troll Warlord. What his new Aghs shard does is it makes it so that he gets a new spell, and when he gets that spell, it allows him to, basically his old ultimate, and if he's in ranged form, it gives all of himself and his allies 70 attack speed, and if he's in melee form, it gives them all 25% status resistance. It's just a bonus spell that doesn't really hinder you in terms of, like, you don't have to waste a cooldown, and it's like matchups like Phoenix, for example, that you previously didn't want to pop your ultimate, where attack speed would come in handy. Now that 70 attack speed that you give to all your allies just really pays off. Like, you can think of Phoenix, you can think of Tombstone, you can think of all kinds of examples where that bonus attack speed would really make a difference. And now you basically just have like a half Troll Warlord old ultimate, which really gives them effectively a fifth ability. And I see almost every Troll Warlord going it from somewhere around 30 to 40 minutes. So just to show you real quick, so if you push, I don't even have it hockeyed. If we push it from melee form, it gives us 25% status resistance, perfectly worded tooltip. And if we push it from melee form, or excuse me, from range form, we get 70 attack speed. And all of my teammates also benefit from this. So the status resistance can really pay off. I've seen it against Tidehunter, where the Ravage goes off and everyone just has 25% status resistance. And then the attack speed can pay off in examples like I talked about. So the next one, the tried and true, you all know it from last patch most likely, is the Juggernaut. So I just think that this is an Aghs shard that you buy pretty much every single game, somewhere between 20 to 30 minutes. To be clear about what it does, is that it makes it so your spin creates an auto attack every 1 second, dealing 75% damage, and it also increases your Blade Fury damage by, or your Blade Fury movement speed by 100. So when you couple that with your level 20 Blade Fury DPS talent, it used to be that, for instance, Jug Magnus was a combo that didn't work all that well because cleave wouldn't happen during spin. So you had to buy a BKB if you wanted to do damage in the middle of a team fight. But now, like, I just got done playing Jug Magnus, and it just makes so many of his matchups so much better. It allows him to output all the damage he needs to during spin. And if we buy the shard just so you can see it, you just attack a random target around you. It procs all your attack modifiers, procs the Diffusals, the Maelstroms, the Battle Furies, and then just the enabling you to do damage in the mid to late game during Magic Immunity, as well as in the mid game, chasing people down with mixed damage. They can't buy Ghost Scepters because your Blade Fury kills them, and they, you know, can't buy armor, or excuse me, they can't buy like Hood or anything because your auto attacks killed them. So the mixed damage component makes Jug really strong. So the next Aghs shard that I want to give an honorable mention to is Grimstroke. So what Grimstroke's Aghs Shard does is that it causes your ink swell to do 50% more damage and heals you the target that you're ink swelling for 50% of the damage it deals. And so it's basically 75% of what it previously did. And then it also creates a strong dispel at the end of ink swell. So just to be clear, I'm putting this in honorable mention because I don't necessarily at this moment think it's a game-changing Aghs Shard. But I do believe it's a shard that Grim's going to buy pretty much every single game. It just makes your ink swell a way better ability. And we're going to show you what happens if you're playing against illusion heroes. So let's just simulate that this Aghs is an illusion hero. I promise it's been tested if you do it against illusions. It works versus all sources of damage. We're going to spawn an ally real quick. So create hero, create hero, lich ally. We're going to give him a bunch of hearts to make sure he can... Actually, we'll just give him a bunch of reavers. So we'll make him take a bunch of damage. Okay, warp him there. Okay, so if we buy the Aghs Shard, and let's see how much it heals the Lich for. Yeah, so if you manage to do it around an illusion hero, or just like 2 or 3 enemy heroes, it's basically like a cheese. And at the end of it, it's a strong dispel, and I just think it's incredibly broken how it works. And I have been seeing Grimstroke so far, first pick, first ban, in pretty much every DPC game. We're only a day in, but I have been seeing it. Next is Ursa on my honorable mentions list. So what his does is it turns his Earthshock into a 6-second cooldown instead of an 8-second cooldown, and he gets an Enrage for 1.5 seconds every single time he Earthshocks. So I'd say even half the power of this shard is that it sounds like he's enraging all the time, and it's really hard to keep track of whether or not he's enraging. So it turns it into a 6-second cooldown, and I get an Enrage for 1.5 seconds. So when you couple that with your normal ultimate, and it just adds to the duration as you see when you add them on top of each other. It's mainly just that if you try to stun the Ursa, he can actually just jump into your stun and make it 80% status resistance, so he just doesn't get stunned nearly as long. It doesn't dispel like his normal ultimate does, so it's not like quite as powerful as an Enrage, but you just take way less damage, and or excuse me, you take 80% less damage and you take 50% status res. So you're effectively making it so your every stun on you lasts half as long. And if you manage to like know there's going to be a large burst of damage coming, you can just push Q, and for that 1.5 seconds you don't take any damage. So I think Ursa's relatively weak this patch in the sense that Abyssal got nerfed, and a lot of the items he likes to buy, like Battle Fury, got nerfed. But because of the Aghs Shard, I think he's still viable, and it's an item that I've seen people buy pretty much every single game, and even like right at the 20-minute mark. Next honorable mention, Snapfire. I've only seen her once so far, but as a core, I've seen the Blink Dagger build with the Aghs Shard. They just keep buffing it. They keep buffing her Aghs Shard. So just to be clear about what it does, is that it makes it so that if somebody's within the point-blank range of your Scatterblast, that you will deal an extra 125 damage, and you also stun them. So the combo that people are going for, just to show you like why I think it's only for core snap, is if we level up here, we don't need our other 2 abilities for the sake of this demo. I've seen a lot of E-Blades on top of it, so we'll give this axe like 2,700 health. I actually don't know fully how much damage this is going to do. We'll actually give ourselves a level 10 talent just to test it out, or level 15 talent, because you'll definitely have it. But I see Blink Dagger E-Blade on core Snapfire, and this is what it looks like. And you follow it up with the cookie, and you do about a 12 to 1,300 burst damage, and you have the 2-second stun from your Scatterblast, and you also have the 2.2 second stun from your cookie. And you just very reliably burst down targets with this build, and it's been really cool to watch in the couple games I've seen it so far. Next honorable mention is Lion. His new Aghs Shard allows his mana drain to target an extra 3 or up to 3 enemies, so an extra 2 targets, and you also become spell immune while channeling. That's the biggest part about it. Seems like in the mid to late game, Lion would want this in every single game. Any way that a support can get a virtually free BKB, in the sense that it's very cheap in comparison, and it's also on a 6-second cooldown. You just channel and you become magic immune. So it doesn't dispel, same as Ursa's ultimate. So like if you have a damage over time spell on you or anything like that, you're not going to remove it. But during the time that you're magic immune, if a spell is supposed to do damage only when you're not magic immune, you won't take any. So you can use it to dodge stuns, you can use it to dodge abilities. You can honestly just be BKB'd in the middle of things. As a Lion in the mid to late game, which I think is pretty insane. Next up is Tiny. So I've tried Tiny carry a bit. I haven't necessarily had the success with it, nor have I seen it be amazing. I think some teams are going to start trying to pick it up with some amazing timing at 20 minutes. But what the tiny shard is that it causes your tree grab to have no limit, no charge limit. So I see people going like Treads, Mask of Madness, S and Y, and then at like level 15, you have the tree grab talent, the tree grab bonus damage talent. So we'll just level up here. And just to give you an idea of why I think it's broken, you walk up to a building with unlimited tree grab. I know this is a demo mode, but either way. And you just do this. I like the... This is like level 15. Oh, I didn't get the Aghs shard. GG. And you obviously can do exactly what I just did there without running out of charges. And you can just... it does an extra... It does 180% damage to towers. So if you take in Siege tower reduction to heroes, which divides it in half, you basically hit for full. So you're hitting for like 200 damage plus on towers, and this is like 20 minutes into the game. So I think we might see some crazy IO Tiny strats, or really any other attack speed steroid where you hit this ridiculous timing on Tiny around the 20-minute mark. Okay, next one is Riki, that I'll put on honorable mention. I put him here also because I don't think his Aghs shard is ridiculously game-changing. I did see Thompson go to yesterday during DPC, and it's also just honestly pretty damn good. It's just an all-around item that I think Rickies will buy almost every single game. So it's been the sleeping dart for a while, and now it makes it so that instead of having to wait for 4 seconds for the target to wake up and they're invulnerable, it's treated like an ET stomp, where they can be asleep, but you can decide to hit them if you want. And if they take 200 damage, then they will wake up. And the biggest thing is, I made sure I checked this, if they take the 200 damage from the during the Aghs shard, they also take the 150 damage at the end of it, and also get slowed. So if you sleep them, and we do some damage, it just does an extra bit of damage, and it sets up for any set of spells. We've seen some offlane Rickies try to go for Meteor Hammer, as it serves as a nice setup for that. It's also just really good for ignoring targets. You're dealing with Tidehunters, you're dealing with like these AoE teamfight heroes that are tanky, and you don't want to stun them, or like you don't want to deal with them, but you can't burst them. You just throw them under a dart and ignore them. So there's a lot of different applications for solo pickoffs, as well as like teamfight application. And I think it's just a core item on Riki going like past the 20-minute mark. Next one that I have not gotten to try, and that's the only reason it's not rated higher, just by default, I think it sounds absolutely busted, is the Huskar shard. Reduces the cooldown of Inner Fire by 3 seconds, and it makes it so that it reduces healing by 50% on anyone who's affected, and it also applies a 40% movement speed slow. And here's the kicker, is it can be cast while disabled. So anytime you get gone on, you can just push them away, honestly. Like, so we're gonna call him, and then you just use it anyway. So if you get Blink Abyssal, which isn't necessarily as powerful anymore, or you just get committed onto and stunned by supports, you can reset the fight with Inner Fire. I think Huskar got a lot of ridiculous buffs this patch, and it sounds like an item that, in any circumstance that you're afraid of getting bursted, it sounds really good. Coupled with the Aghs, the taunt, you just have so much disable on a hero that's meant to be like some single target physical DPS hero. And I just think that if you, like the healing regeneration loss combined with Burning Spears, it just rounds out Huskar's kit insanely well. So I'm looking forward to seeing some Huskars in DPC. By looking forward, I mean I expect to see some, but I don't know if anybody really likes watching Huskar, but I expect it to be picked up in nearly every game. I know you guys are anxiously awaiting my top 10, because this is meant to be a top 10 video. We're going to go through Timbersaw. So Timbersaw is my number 10. I think his shard is actually insane. What they did this patch was they made it so it's the same Flamethrower as it was before, but it also does building damage. And that's the big part for me, is that it's super well-rounded. It's 90 damage per second for 7 seconds. It's a slow by 30%. And now it also affects buildings. So during the time that you use it, it's just an extra 240 damage on towers. So I've already lost a lane of racks to a Timbersaw who's just flamethrowing my towers. And he's a hero that's insanely hard to deal with. And at the 20-minute mark, he can be a tier 3 sieger because of this item. And I just think an item that changes the game for these heroes is what's going to define top 10 Aghs shards. So I know I listed what really makes these honorable mentions. Like, these are core Aghs shards that you want to buy every single game. But I think the top 10 ones, as you see here, are ones going to completely change the facet of what a hero can do. Whether or not that changes the role they play, whether or not that changes something they couldn't previously do in the game. For example, here, Timbersaw, sieging high ground. And now we're going to move on to the next one. So, Legion Commander. Her shard, I think is pretty insane. We're going to put her at number 9. So Legion Commander Shard lowers the cooldown of press the attack, and then it also makes it so that during press the attack, you are magic immune for the first 1.75 seconds. So we've actually been seeing people pick this as support. You now have a 10-second cooldown Strong Dispel, which also makes your ally magic immune. And you make yourself magic immune. So even if that means like blinking and dueling, that means after you win the duel and you cast press the attack on yourself because you won the duel, I just think it's it basically changes the entire idea of this ability, and we've even been seeing some EU players experiment with Legion Commander 5 position. She's really well statted. She has high base movement speed, high base damage, so she's a decently strong laner. And now you just give her an extra free, like, short duration BKB for her teammates, and lowering her cooldown by 3 seconds is no laughing matter. Next one that a lot of people I think are really hyped for is Dazzle. So the reason why I think Dazzle Shard is super good is because it gives a disable to a hero that doesn't previously have one. So what the new Aghs Shard does for Dazzle is that it makes it so every poison-touched target gets hexed for 1.25 seconds. So the biggest part about this, that I didn't even think about when it came out, is that if you buy the Aghs Shard, we're going to level up just to give ourselves max targets, and you're against a enemy hero that is an illusion hero. Let's spawn the enemy. Let's give him a bunch of levels, and oops, and he has a bunch of illusions. You just insta-kill them all. Insta-kill all the illusions, because Hex kills illusions. So I think that's the crazy part about Dazzle's Aghs Shard, and I think it completely changes matchups that were previously bad for him, and now allows him to be played in a core role, because as an offlaner, pretty much every illusion hero gave you some serious issues as the game went on, and now that you have a way to deal with 3 or 4 of your hard counters, it just makes the hero that much more viable, and the hero's already been getting buffs as is. So I think we'll be seeing a lot more Dazzle as the patch goes on. Next up is Dark Willow. So in the past, Dark Willow gets hard countered by Lotus Orb. And the reason why I think her Aghs Shard is so good is because it removes the counter of the Lotus Orb. So the reason why Dark Willow gets so hard countered by Lotus Orb is because Lotus Orb removes her Bramble, it removes her Curse Crown, and it also removes her Terrorize. Okay, so if the enemy has a Lotus Orb on their ally, and you cast all your spells on one guy, it just removes all of them. It also removes the Curse Crown. So what that does is, like, all 3 of your disables, your crowd control, are just completely negated by one item. So what the Aghs Shard does for Willow is that it makes the Curse Crown go off sooner, and if it gets dispelled in any way, or it ends, they also spawn brambles around the opponent. So in this case, now they have brambles around them and they'll get caught again, and it just makes it so it's a lower cooldown. Or sorry, it makes it so it's a lower cooldown by 3 seconds, the stun delay takes less time by 1 second, and now even if they get Lotus Orb, they'll still be caught in a set of brambles that are very difficult to dodge. And I just think it's a huge quality of life buff to Willow, because any hero that has a problem with a specific item, if the Aghs Shard changes that, I think it's a drastically impactful Aghs Shard. Next up is Skywrath. I actually think Skywrath's Shard is underexplored so far. I don't know exactly what position he would be played. I could imagine it might even make him a mid. And the reason why I say Aghs Shard on Skywrath Mage is so strong is that every time you cast an ability, you gain 5 intelligence and 1 armor for 35 seconds. There is a max amount of stacks. I believe it's 17. But either way, you're paying 1,400 gold for approximately like 10 to 15 armor and 50 intelligence during the middle of a fight. And usually even when you're farming, you're spamming your spells. So the problem with Skywrath Mage is that he has 0 base armor. And as a hero, he just always has issues with people going on top of him and catching him in the backlines. And to be honest, there's just no armor item that feels good for Skywrath. There's no item that he can buy that makes him super tanky when it comes to physical damage. But you're happy to go Atos, you're happy to go like Kaya Sanj, these other like straight health items. But now you can go an armor item in terms of the Aghs Shard that just significantly buffs up your ability to not only output damage because it gives you int, but notice how you just get these stacks, perfect freaking modifier, tooltip. Let's do free spells. And suddenly you're sitting on this like extra 50 int in the 20 to 30 minute mark, which scales well into the late game, and most notably, your 1 armor goes to 11 or 12. He has super low agility gain as well, So there's just no time in the game that you were ever going to get armor otherwise. And I think a lot of the time, instead of running away, you can actually just fight your way back in because of the amount of tankiness you gain and just raw damage. Next up is CM. It basically is your last Aghs Shard on steroids. Your last Aghs Shard allowed you to frostbite yourself and still cast your other spells while having a lot of damage reduction. So in this case, we're going to go ahead and show you. So it lets you move during your ultimate. And it lets you also cast all your spells while your ultimate follows you. So you can cast all your spells during your ult. If there's an enemy, I can use Frostbite. So a lot of times in the past, you had to cancel your ultimate in order to cast your spells. And now, like because somebody was TPing out in front of you, or because somebody was, you know, going to use an escape mechanic. But now, it just really rounds out her kit really well. And since you get the bonus armor from your ult anyways, it just makes it so that you're super tanky. And if you do it, since it's considered a slow, it says you move 75% slower. If somebody gives you haste, as of now, at the time I made this video, whether it's a haste rune, like an ulti, or Darkseer Surge, you will simply be hasted while you are running. So, like if you think this is balanced because you move pretty slow, imagine if you, instead of 100 move speed, were hasted. So, for the last four, number 4 through 1, we're actually going to use some gameplay examples for your guys' viewing pleasure. So, at number 4, we have Phantom Lancer. This is OG versus Brame, first day of the DPC. And we're going to flash forward to the 20-minute mark, where Ana finishes his Manta Diffusal, and then he goes straight for Aghs Shard. This is what I believe to be the build. I was preaching it all last patch, and they actually buffed his Aghs Shard even more. So just to be clear about what it does, it makes it so that your Spirit Lance bounces once on an enemy within 900 radius, so it's pretty massive. And the Spirit Lance Illusion got buffed to do an extra 50% damage. So your Spirit Lance Illusion goes from doing 20% damage to 70% damage. So the raw damage output of the illusions basically just kills supports. So there's several applications of this Aghs Shard. It's not only potent in fights, but watch how Ana just farms this entire camp using just a lance and walks away. So it's an item that not only like ridiculously amps your damage output in fights, but it also amps your farming speed. So now we're going to show the first team fight where Ana gets this item. Ana, you got to use your spell, dude. Okay. Yeah, I'm not going to lie to you guys. That didn't look that great. Because we didn't get to see much of the lance. But what the ability actually allows you to do, because this is a video and I'm just going to accept my blooper because you guys know I'm human, is that they actually buffed the level 15 talent. So last patch, if you bought an Octarine Core, it would make the cooldown 3.75 seconds. But now, with just the lance, it's only a 4-second cooldown. And as you saw, he doesn't actually have to commit to fights to have a lot of impact. And the biggest part about this ability is that it's good for defending high ground. It's good for sieging high ground because you can poke people from a distance. You burn their mana over the course of the fight. And it just aids everything PL wants to do in the game. And I think you have to buy it 100% of games. So I know that wasn't the best example, but you know what? We're going to start with mediocre examples so we can get the better ones later. For number 3, we got Bounty Hunter. So let's go ahead and talk about his Aghs Shard. What his Aghs Shard does is that it grants you 40% damage reduction while you are invisible. When you attack out of your invisibility, you stun the target for 1 second, and it also lowers the cooldown of Shadow Walk by 5 seconds to a measly 10-second cooldown. So let's talk about why this item is so game-breaking, especially in high MMR Dota. But I think it'll even apply in your own Dota, because it applies when you're a core, it applies when you're a support. 40% damage reduction. Let's just do some quick maths. When you were supposed to do 100 damage, you now do 60. We're just throwing out some arbitrary numbers there. So in order to kill somebody that has 100 HP, you'd have to do that 60 damage plus an extra 40. Which means that you had to do an extra 66% damage, because 40 is 66% of 60. So you have an extra 66% HP effectively whenever you're invis, and you cannot dispel the invis. And so when we talk about 66% HP, I'm just throwing numbers out, you guys, but you don't have to trust me. With Bounty Hunter here having 1500 health, he has approximately 1,000 extra health on top of what he's already got. So what you're going to see is a bounty hunter that's leading a smoke gank, who's a support, looking at his items. He's got brown boots, solar, and he's going to run into 4 or 5 heroes and just see how long it takes them to kill him. This is a support, people. They just brought him down. I know he got graved, but that took 4 heroes 5 seconds to kill a support. And that's what makes this hero so broken, is we've already been seeing it first picked in EU so far. It's the fact that you are meant to be controlling high grounds and areas on the map when you're losing, or even when you're ahead. You're trying to control specific areas. And having a support, or even a core if you have a lot more items, a lot more tankiness, a lot more HP, who can just face check and not die because they have that extra 60% effective HP, is absolutely broken. They're 100% going to nerf this one. I can't believe they put this in the game. And I think it's insane. The 40%. If you guys have ever seen Centaur Aghs back in the day with the damage reduction, I mean, it still works that way, but how much tankier heroes become with damage reduction, it's absolutely absurd. And giving this to a hero who can basically have it guaranteed, no way to dispel it, on such a low cooldown is, in my opinion, absurdly broken. Now, my name being Big Sweaty Jenkins the other day will be appropriate for this one, as we're going to talk about Pudge coming in hot at a number 2. So the reason why I have Pudge at number 2 is, let's go ahead and quickly talk about his Aghs Shard. So his Aghs Shard allows targeting an ally to swallow them and heal them for 6% of their max health per second, and it reduces the cooldown by 10 seconds. In the recent patch, they also made this so you have 400 cast range when you're using it on your allies. So let's just give Pudge a disruption that is only ended by killing the Pudge. Like, he buys an Ether Lens, and he now has a 625 range instant save on any of his teammates, and it also heals them. So let's go ahead and find where they're sieging my high ground here. Okay. There's one. This is my game in a nutshell. And I'll find it. There's 2. Good luck committing on to targets, guys. Good luck committing. You want to try to all-in burst a hero ever? Look at the way he's sitting. He's not even playing the fight. He can just sit behind his teammates as they siege. Oh! He's in slight danger. Eat him and spit him out. So this is just one small example I played in a pub. I actually think Pudge is unironically viable, giving any hero a late game save in a form of a heal that also just disrupts any sort of damage. It's a disruption from Shadow Demon that you take them with you. So rather than inputting them or like outputting them right back in the same spot as they were before, you just retreat them to safety and run it back. And I think the whole concept of this is just entirely stupid. And it makes you have to focus a Pudge. So compared to a Shadow Demon, Shadow Demon's an int support who usually has like 1500 HP max. Now you're sitting with a Pudge who's got 2500 HP and a save. So I think it's absurdly broken, and if Pudge is picked in competitive, he will buy this every single game. Last but not least, you know, you're going to call BSJ bias. You know, BSJ, you're biased. Why are you always biased? We're actually going to give number 1 Aghs Shard, as of now, to Slark. So the reason why I give the number 1 Aghs Shard to Slark is because in the past, his Aghs, if you remember Slark Aghs like 2 years ago, it made it so his ultimate was an AoE cloud that gave all of his teammates invisibility. But it didn't actually heal. It just made them untargetable. So what they officially did with Aghs Shard on Slark is so that they made it that it creates a 300 AoE cloud that instead of being around you, and also instead of being linked to your ultimate, it's a completely new ability, okay? So it has an 800 cast range, and it hides all of your allies inside of this radius for 3 seconds. So, to be very clear, this ability will insta-cancel a duel, for instance. Any ability that gets canceled by like loss of sight of the opponent, insta-cancel. So that's number 1. But number 2 is it's a save in the late game, just like Pudge, on a hero that traditionally provides vision for his team and has to be the guy in front baiting out spells. But now, if the opponent has overwhelming fight, or even Slark has somebody that saves him, which in this case I'm an Omni Knight, I save him, he can now save me as well. So let's go ahead and fast forward a little bit here. So this is the first team fight, where I'm going to use my ultimate, and we're in the middle of everything. We get RP'd. Slark's in a Dark Pact, and Ursa wants to hit all of us, and now we're all just clouded. All of us are invis. The entire enemy team's like, what the hell? Where are they? Lion's fingering from invis. They're trying to kill us, but they can't see us. They literally cannot hit us. And this is a 75-second cooldown spell. That's a 300 AoE of invincibility and heal for his allies. So that's number one. So this is a minor example. It's not nearly as impactful as the last time. But the idea is you see them RP us, you see them arena us, you see them ET splitter us. They want to... It's a combo breaker. The biggest part about this Slark ability is that he's usually never had any teamfight presence. This hero is a hero that the way to counter him in the mid to late game is to completely ignore him, kill the rest of his team first, and then come back and focus him as 5. You have the two options. You have that option or to immediately burst the Slark. But now with Slark, because of this Aghs shard, can completely change the way that he itemizes, where he just itemizes pure tankiness, as you see here. And he also can just be synergized so well with saves, in the form of like an Oracle, an Abaddon, an Omni Knight. And anytime one of his teammates gets gone on, just make sure, hey buddy, you're going to be fine. As you see Lion and me get RP'd, and he says, no, you're not going to focus my supports, and just puts them invis. And even though in this case we wouldn't have actually died anyways, it's the fact that you have this oh shit button that is so strong in any given teamfight combo breaker. And I remember watching OG versus Brame, which I already referenced in one of my earlier clips, and they picked Mag in the first round, and they banned Slark in the second round, because they are fully aware of how much of an insane combo breaker this is. And I think any Aghs shard we've listed in the top 10 is game-changing, but this one, most of all, absolutely breaks the hero in certain matchups, where it makes certain abilities and teamfight execution just unplayable on the other side. So I hope you guys enjoyed this. May have been a little bit longer than I intended, and maybe a little bit longer than you expected, but I hope you made it this far, and thanks for watching, and keep an eye out for my YouTube for more 7.29 shenanigans. If you liked this video, please like, comment, subscribe to the YouTube channel, all that shenanigans, because at the end of the day, YouTube does care about that. You may not care about it, I may not care about it, but the YouTube algorithm does, so please do.